Hey, it's Tuesday. You know what that means? It's Tech Stuff Tuesday. This week, are watts really watts? You might think that a watt is a watt. So to prove this, or disprove this, we've got a Boss 4000 watt amp. It is in the Armor series. It is an AR4000D. I do not expect it to do 4000 watts. I'm absolutely positive we're not going to see 4000 watts. However, I would like to see what it does do in comparison to this, our America 12K. So what we're going to do, I've got a Lowballer 12 in this box. We're going to meter SPL. We're going to completely ignore sound quality of either of these amps. Go for SPL only. We've got a current clamp right there. So we're going to compare how much current draw it requires to make the same power. We're going to use the Boss as the baseline, so we know exactly how many watts we have to match on the America, because this can obviously make 14,000 watts, so quite a bit more. So we're going to match that power to this power and see how they compare. Now, I already know what you're thinking. That's not fair. It's a way bigger amp. It's not going to be strained at all to make that power. So for that reason, we're going to do multiple power levels with this amp where it's not being strained at all. And then we're going to match that on this amp. And for both amps, we're going to try different frequencies, not just the peak frequency, because the impedance rise is pretty bad in this box. So we'll give it a shot there, and we're going to see exactly how much power we can really get out of this from a realistic standpoint, and compare that as well. Clipping ever so slightly, or maybe a lot more. We'll see how it goes. And clean power. So we're going to see the difference between the two on that as well. So let's get the camera set up on the meter that also has the O-scope from the leads, not the sensor. So we can see how clean the power is, use the Boss as a baseline, then move over to the America and compare. Now I know what you're thinking. Why did I pick this Boss amp? Well, there's one huge reason. From the support of viewers like you, sounds like a lot like a PBS commercial, I was able to get this. You can support this channel through Patreon. The link for that is below. You can contribute there to where we can buy more equipment and test different things. It also helps with the overall cost of things that we end up destroying. So the more we have contributions, the more we can do on Tech Stuff Tuesday, and the better content you get. So, that being said, let's get into the testing. I believe around volume 28 on this head unit for this particular amp should be near clipping. It should be right around the point where it's clean, and maybe the next one or two clicks should be dirty. So let's give that a whirl. And we are playing the peak frequency of this sub in this enclosure as I have tested before. So they have a 145.5 on 479 watts. So we're right at about 480. We're going to go up one click. And I will note this is at 4.4 ohms. We do have just a very small amount of clipping. Very, very, very small. We're going to go one click. Try this again. 505 watts, and you can see very distinct clipping right there. So a 145.7 on 505 watts. We picked up 2/10 with a small amount of power and just a little bit of clipping. So we're going to go up one more click. And we'll see how this current draw is happening as well. .526 watts, 145.8. Again, we have a fair amount of clipping. Let's try clipping this just a little bit more. See what happens. $145.9. We are definitely clipped in here. Almost 550 watts. Let's go up another click. and see if we can get 550 watts. $555 watts, 146.9 or 145.9. I'm going to go up one more click and see if we can get a 146 even out of it. It is definitely clipping. So we are adding power. It is definitely clipping. This is wired at 1 ohm, mind you. So this is real in-car testing. There we go. We barely got our 146 flat with 566 watts. It's clipped pretty hard. I think that is the maximum amount of power we're going to get out of this amp. That is at 4.1 ohms. We're going to try to get some more power out of this thing. So we're going to try a different frequency. We'll go down to 60 hertz. 5 hertz down from where I was. So now we're going to try a lower frequency. See what kind of power we can get out of it. All right, I'm going to go up 3 clicks. So that was 605 watts at 3 ohms. We'll go up another click. That is starting to clip. I can audibly hear it. So 634 watts at 3.0 ohms. We are going to try a higher frequency, see if we can get the impedance down. Try 5 hertz above the peak. That is a clipped 575 watts, 53 amps of draw, and that is 2.9 ohms. I'm going to go 15 hertz higher than our box peak. Try to get some real power out of this. There we go, 1.8 ohms, 924 watts. We're trying to get somewhere. That all right, we're going to go up even more. $962 watts, 1.9 ohms. I think that's going to be where we're kind of stuck, is right around that 950 area. So we're going to get this moved around to the America and see what kind of SPL numbers we get at the same power and the same frequency. So now we've got just the America connected here. I've got the current clamp on one of the power wires. There are 4 that go into this amplifier. Any numbers that I mention for current draw are going to be times 4. Now on to testing just this amplifier. First thing we're going to match is the peak frequency, which was 65 hertz. 479 watts was our clear reading on power on the other one. So that's what we're going to be. Our first goal is right around 479, 480 watts. So, first one, 472 watts, was 1/10 louder. So a few less watts, still a tenth louder. 505 watts will be our next goal. You'll also notice this is cleaner, or as clean, if not a little bit cleaner. Current draw on that was 10 amps times 4, so 40 amps. Let's go for the 500 watt mark. 505 did a 145.7. I went a hair over. So 525 was actually the next one beyond that. So we'll just go off of that. 526 watts was the next target, which was 145.8. So we're 2/10 louder and with 1 watt less. You can also see it's still clean. Current draw again was 10 amps. So 40 on the whole on that. 543 watts is our next one. And the one after that's 555. Both give us the same number of 145.9. So we're going to try right around the 450 mark. Or the 550 mark. So 553. We're 4/10 now louder, and it's still clean. 146.3 to the 145.9 out of 543 watts and 555 watts. We'll go up 566 if I can nail that in. That did do a 46.0 before. Another thing to note here is these are all long rolls that are happening. So I'm actually stressing the sub more in all of these tests. They are rated for 750 RMS. We're not quite to rated power. But in terms of burps, I mean, these are long burps to get theirs to match the power. So they're a disadvantage, and it's still louder. That was 11 amps per side, so 44 amps on that burp. So the next one we're going to try is 566. See if I can dial that in. If I go just a little bit more, I'll probably go over 559 watts, 146.3. It's about as close as we're going to get there. And that again was 11 amps, so 44. Next up, if we go down to 60 hertz, we'll try that. 350 watts is our first goal. Did a 141.1 before. So 351 watts, 1 watt difference, 140.9 this time. So it's 2/10 down. I'm guessing that's a result of these long rolls over and over. Next one will be 605 watts at a 143.4 was the number before. And we did a 143.4 again. So the exact same power, the exact same SPL. And the last one was 634 watts. Did a 143.7. So 634 is the goal. And I will have to go up on the volume. A little bit too much, but that was 143.5, so it's down slightly, 2/10. Okay, so now we're going to go up to 80 hertz, 924 watts is what we saw before. So try this. I should have stopped there when I saw that. We got 944. It was a 133.5. So that is a huge difference at that level. The 20 watts is not going to make up 0.9 dB. And you can see it's It's still clean. 962 watts at 85 hertz. That was our next one. So that was a 125.8 at 962. The current draw on that last one was 20 amps per, so 80 amps. 962 watts being the target this time. I saw right there, it just barely tipped over. 963 is what we had first. 126.6 to the 125.8. So once you get into the higher power levels, there is definitely a huge difference in SPL. You're talking 0.7 dB this time, 0.8. That is absolutely huge when you're talking the same power level. So I guess kind of what we have learned here is at the lower power levels, you're going to get within a few tenths. But right when you're near that point where it's about to start clipping or just barely in clipping, that's going to bring your score down significantly. Even at the 900 watt level on the other amp, it was just very, very slightly clipped. We never got into really, really hard clipping, but there's a huge difference in score. So that does prove that a watt is not necessarily a watt. A cleaner watt is going to produce a better number. Generally in SPL, a very slight clip can produce a higher SPL, but as you can see here, between the two amps, even you're comparing a very slight clip that may have a slight advantage in SPL to a perfectly clean, there's a huge difference in SPL going from a cheap amp to a higher quality amp that is going to cost quite a bit more. So in conclusion, what did we learn here? Well, this amplifier, that again was $110, promises 4,000 watts of max power. They don't give an RMS rating on any of this. Not sure why they do or don't, but they say 4,000 max, which I had no anticipations of getting. It does have three 40 amp fuses. So I was kind of anticipating I might see 1,200 watts out of it. I really, really thought I might see 1,200 out of it. Can't get the impedance down to 1 ohm. Now with that 1 sub, if we wired it below half or at half, it's possible we could have done it. But I don't want to do that with that amp. I don't know if it'll just blow up or go and protect or whatever. So we used it at 1 ohm, and that's real powers. All the numbers that you saw are real power numbers you're actually going to see out of this amp in your car. Despite what any amp dyno video may have shown you, that's not what you're actually going to get in car. You saw what we got in car. Those are real numbers. So we didn't get 4,000. We didn't even get 1,000 of actual real power. So you would think this might be a value at $110, and from the SPL readings, if you're only going to use it for, say, 500 watts or so, yeah, you're within tenths. That's not audible, so you might be okay. Once you get up to the higher power levels, you're talking about near a dB difference. 1 dB is differential to the ear, less than that isn't. So from just a musical application, it's not going to sound as good. It's not going to sound as clean or clear. But from an output level, it would be very close in that sense. But sound quality is probably what you're after anyway. From an SPL standpoint, no, this is not going to be good for you at all. You're counting tenths, or you might even be counting hundredths. This is going to be very bad for you, even making 1,000 watts. A quarter of what they say it can do. It's near a dB down. And I didn't even get into just really hard clipping, which will usually show a lower SPL number. Sometimes it'll show a little bit more clipping, might show a little bit higher SPL. But all in all, not really a great value. I mean, it certainly is cheap. If you only want to get 1,000 watts out of it, okay. Maybe you want to spend the $110 compared to a good amp like the Sundown Audio SAE 1000D. It does cost more than $110, You can buy that at emfcaraudio.com. But it will sound much better than this amp. When it's making that 1,000 watts, it's not going to sound good doing it. So that is a consideration. There are other cheap amps out there as well. They may not be as efficient. They may sound worse. It's a real crapshoot with these cheap ones. Reliability is also going to be a factor. 110 bucks. I'm not going to expect this thing to last very long, whereas like the Sundown amp, 2-year warranty, and it's built to last. So that's another consideration when you're looking at cheap power. A watt is not a watt. They don't add up in SPL. Sound quality, there's a big difference there. So that is a lesson learned in all of this. You can support us on Patreon in the link below. You can also support us by shopping at emfcaraudio.com for the full line of Sundown Audio, EMF Audio, XS Power, and SBC products, as well as some audio control. We have shirts, hats, beanies, that kind of stuff on there too. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Hit the notification bell so you get notifications every Tuesday when we upload a new video. Hit like, give us a thumbs up. If you like this video, if you have any suggestions for future videos, comment those below. If you have any questions about this test, comment that below as well. And I hope to see you again in another Tech Stuff Tuesday.